Hello. So I want to share with you guys today something I've been really embarrassed about. I don't, it's not that I don't want to share it, but it's just something that I don't normally share with people. People literally normally don't know this about me unless you really know me, unless I feel safe with you. And some of you may think like, oh, that's so silly, but you don't know because you haven't lived it, right? So this video is going to be about my history with sleepwalking. Dreaming, seeing in the spiritual realm, and how all that ties in with God and also the enemy. So I'm just gonna get started into it. So I've been wanting to film this for a while, and just like, who has time to do literally anything? Like, my goodness, especially something that's a longer format or whatever. So I recently, or like a month or so ago, I asked my mom, when did I start sleepwalking? Like, when did it happen? I also asked my grandma, because there was a time when me and my mom lived with my grandma, and my mom said like 8 or 9. And that made sense because my dad passed away, which is like, I've shared part of that story in another video on my YouTube, when I was 9. But my grandma said probably like 7. So she was saying that it was even earlier. So I was just like, kind of like, okay, like, which one is it? Like, they always have these differing like perspectives, which is so funny. But and then also another disclaimer, I'm not gonna put my mom's business out on the street, but like, when she was younger, she would wake up screaming. And when she shared a room with my aunt, she would wake up screaming, and she grew out of it, right? So it wasn't something that she did her entire life. So I asked him about that because I was just trying to figure out, like, when did this first start? But from the earliest memories that I have, are being in my room and being afraid of the dark, not wanting to sleep in my room, like being terrified to sleep by myself in my room. And I used to sleep with my mom. And when my dad was still alive and my dad would be at our house, I would be like knocking at their door, like trying to get in the middle of the night because I had a nightmare. I didn't want to sleep in there by myself. And of course, I know now what they were in there doing. And I would go in there after and I would sleep with them because I was so terrified. And my earliest memories of like dreaming and sleeping is just being so afraid of the dark and having these, I guess they would be night terrors. Like, I was having these night terrors. And I've never heard anyone else say they experienced this part that I'm about to tell you, but me and this other guy that I watched on this podcast. When I dream, and this still happens to me to this day, when I would go to sleep at night and I would dream, and this is as little as a little girl, like under 9 years old probably, I see my dreams outside of my dreams. And I know that sounds crazy, like it probably doesn't make any sense. The best way that I could explain it is like it's a hallucination. So, or like I'm seeing like a vision. I'm seeing something, but I'm awake. So I would be, for instance, I'm sleeping, I have a dream or I have a nightmare. I wake up and I literally see the thing in my room. And one of the first memories that I have when I was a little girl is that I seen another child in my room, like a shadowy figure of a child. And I was scared, but I also kind of was looking at it like, what is this about? And I guess it was a little girl, I don't really remember. But I know that I would see these things and like, I would go like this, like to close my eyes, open my eyes back up so it would go away. And most of the time it would. So this is just something that I started doing at a young age, right? And also the night terror started to get worse. And I was just so violently afraid of the dark. Like, I don't even know where it stems from, to be honest with you. I have no idea. And then the sleepwalking started. So just like my mom was doing, I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I'm screaming bloody murder. Like, I'm yelling out, like, I don't even know, like, I'm terrified, right? And my mom would run in the room or she would like check on me, whatever. And I started doing this. I started sleepwalking into my mom's room, and I would wake up in the morning and I would have no memory of me doing that. Like, the last thing I would remember is me sleeping in my bed, and then I would wake up in my mother's bedroom. So I was doing stuff like that. And this is like from being, maybe 7, since my grandma said that's when it started, to being 18. These are the years of when I lived with my mother. So just some of the instances that she would tell me about. So when my father passed away, my mom would let me sleep with her, obviously, because we was going through it mentally, and it was just horrible tragedy, right? So I started sleeping with her, and then it got to the point where I was probably like 11, 12, still sleeping in the bed with my mom. And she was over it. Like, she wanted her own bed, right? And I was like a violent sleeper. I used to kick her and all of that stuff. It's funny, but it's not. So she bought me this big, huge nightlight. Like, it was huge. And it was a Power Rangers, pink Power Rangers, because I was obsessed with Power Rangers nightlight. And that was what got me sleeping back in my room. It was so bright, I might as well just had the lights turned on. Okay. And then I also would go to sleep to movies. That's something my mom does or used to do too. So I kind of just adapted that from her. But I would go to sleep with like either Spice World or the Hercules cartoon movie. I would watch those movies every single night to go to sleep. And Lord, I was still afraid of the dark, like, honestly, but I just stopped sleeping in my mom's room because I was getting older, like, girl. So throughout the time, even though I was sleeping in my own room, there would be times where I would, like I said, I would wake up and I would be in my mother's room, or I would go downstairs and turn on all the lights and I would come back upstairs, or I would be screaming and my mom would come in the room and she'd be like, what's wrong? And I would have no memory of it the next day. Or I would be screaming. I would go literally to the bathroom, use the bathroom, and my mom would be like, are you okay? And she would tell me, like, I would be like, what are you talking about? Like, I would have zero memory of it. So that was just basically a part of my childhood. Like, it was just something that I was doing. And my mom was just like, you're fine, you're normal. She never made me feel like I was just weirdo or anything like that. So it was just like normal, right? And when I started having sleepovers with my friends and stuff like that, I wasn't doing it. I don't have any memories. My friends would have to tell me, like my childhood friends, I don't have any memories of having these sleepovers and I'm sleepwalking. So it was when I was alone in my room at my house. So that continued when I got older. I'll just like now jump around and tell you about like the worst experiences with my sleepwalking. And then I'll tell with that sleepwalking, I don't want to call it mine. Sorry. And then I'll tell you like how God showed me what this was, whatever. So as I got older, I was married, and I've shared that. I've been transparent about that on another video, but none of my friends or people that I was close with ever made it a big deal. Like, I always made it a big deal. I was so embarrassed about it. I literally hated sleeping like at other people's houses. I still don't like sleeping at other people's houses. I don't like sharing beds. I'm just very like, I have this very almost like PTSD when it comes to sleeping, and I need to be comfortable so that I have restful sleep. It sounds crazy, but anyways, so I'll just tell you a few instances. So I remember one time on spring break, this was when I was probably like 19, me and like 7 or so of my other friends were sharing one hotel room. If you know, you know. And I literally woke up screaming, and I freaked everybody out. They thought somebody was breaking into our room, and I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I apologize to them. And they never made me feel weird. Like, I'm sure they were probably like, what in the world? Like, but some of my friends already knew that that was something that I did. And then these like later on, like in my early 20s, and then I started drinking a lot more heavier, and which I shared about that as well on my YouTube about my drinking journey and getting sober. But when I remember being married and I started doing that, and he never was really concerned about it because he slept so hard. Like, and he, most of the time, I don't even think he knew that I was doing that. But he knew about it, obviously. So I do remember one time when I was living in Oregon and I was living there with him. And this is when it started to get bad because I started to hurt myself. Like, I started to harm myself with the sleepwalking. Like, it was horrible. So it was a one time when I'm having these horrible nightmares. And disclaimer, I was watching horror movies. That is one of my favorite film genres. I don't watch horror movies anymore because my spirit doesn't sit right with it, obviously. But just like for context, I liked horror movies. I liked haunted houses. I liked the adrenaline that I would get from being scared. But I know some people are going to think, oh, well, it's the horror movies. I wasn't watching horror movies when I was 7. So it didn't start because of horror movies, but I know that the horror movies were not making it any better, right? So when I was sleeping with my ex in our condo, I woke up and I was sleepwalking. I was walking around and I hit my leg on something. I hurt myself. But in my dream, I saw like these dolls, these sinister dolls were like staring at me. A lot of the night terrors and dreams that I have, I don't remember every single one. But they were horrifying. Like they were causing me distress. Like I'm screaming, right? So I hit my leg. I wake up. I'm like probably crying. I don't really remember, but I remember getting in the bed and him holding me, and I'm literally shaking. Like my entire body is shaking violently, and I'm trying to go back to sleep, and I'm crying. And it's just like, these are the experiences that I was having with it. Now, let me give you a little more joyful experience, and then I'm gonna take you back to the not so joyful experiences. When I was younger, I remember sleeping at my aunt's house in my cousin's room, and I don't know where everybody was at, but I was like taking a nap or something. It was during the day, and the nap couldn't have been no more than like an hour and a half. And I go to sleep and I have a dream about Discovery Zone. I don't know if Discovery Zone was nationwide, but it was this big like McDonald's play place type of thing on steroids. It was like huge, or at least I thought it was huge back then. It's probably not. It probably wasn't that big, but I loved that place. My dad used to take me there all the time. I loved it, right? So I had a dream at my cousin's house taking a nap that I was at Discovery Zone, and I woke up. And I was having so much fun. And I'm like, man, I was having so much fun. I'm about to go back to sleep. So I'm about to see if I can go back to sleep and go back to Discovery Zone. I went back to Discovery Zone. So in that one instance, this is the only time that I can remember, I had control over my dream. Like I literally went back to sleep like 3 or 4 times, and I was back at Discovery Zone playing. And of course, I'm young. I'm not a teenager. I'm like 8 or 9, 10, 11, I don't know. And I'm controlling my dreams. So that's another instance. And then when I moved to Atlanta, I was breaking up with my ex, and I was going through like friend drama. I was going through life transitions. I was just going through a lot. And I was roommates with my friend, but at the time we were beefing and we were not talking to each other. Like, so we ended up falling out. And when I'm in this place, this is also when I started to read the Bible more. I started going to church more, and I was just in this place where I was like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was all over the place. And I was also going out a lot. I was drinking a lot. And this was like probably my mid to late 20s is when I started hurting myself. Like I started getting hurt from sleepwalking. And I'm gonna tell you about the worst experience. So just in a nutshell, some of the experiences was me walking out of my apartment naked. Me trying to walk out of my house, but my alarm went off. That's the only time that's happened here since I've been living in my home now. And just I'm always trying to leave. Like that's what I'm always doing in these dream scenarios or these nightmares or these night terrors. I'm trying to get out of where I'm living. I'm trying to get away from something, right? So I used to have this really big bed. My mom bought me this really nice bed when I was like 12. It was huge. It's this big wooden, real wood bed, and it had storage underneath. It probably came up to here to me when I stood up, and it was huge, right? So I took that with me to Atlanta when I had moved. I don't remember how I got it there because it was massive, right? So when I was living in that roommate situation, there was a time that there was different times where I literally dove out of bed. Like I'm like, I'm jumping off the top of the bed, sleep, and falling. I fell straight on my knees before. Like just waking up with scars, waking up with bruises because it's trying to escape something. Like it was just crazy. So this was the worst experience. I go to sleep. I wake up to my hands like this, blood. Trigger warning, I should have said that before. I busted my lip. I don't know if you can see it. It's like, I think it's right here. It's like a scar on the inside of my lip. I hit my mouth on the edge, like the head, the end board, whatever you call that. I hit it on my mouth on the edge of that. So when I come to, all I see is blood. My mouth hurts and I'm freaking out. I'm crying. I look in the mirror. I think that I'm missing a tooth or my eye or something like that. But when I gone to the doctor, they were just like, you're lucky that you didn't hit your eye. Like, you lucky you didn't, whatever. But imagine being asleep, waking up in blood. Like that was my dream. Not my dream. That was what happened to me because of sleepwalking. So this continues, right? It's happened in every place I've ever lived. A funny story is when I was back in the world, doing the worldly things. When I first moved to Atlanta, I was start talking to this guy, and he didn't believe in Jesus, and we were hanging out all the time, or not all the time. I think we was hanging out for like 3 days, and he spent the night at my house one night, and I think I did something in my sleep. I was like messing with the blinds or something, and literally that man left at like 7 a.m. and he never talked to me again. Which, good, because he wasn't a believer in Jesus. It wasn't going nowhere anyways. But it's just like, some of the instances are funny, but overall, when this is something that I've always been tormented by, like embarrassed, shamed. I always felt like I would tell my mom, like, nobody's gonna want to like be married to me, even though I was married and he didn't care. And I have friends that know I've done this. I have family members, they're not telling me, oh, you can't come to my house, like, but I internalized it as shame, right? So let me bring this to a head to tell you how God showed me what this was, right? So this was probably in 2022, and I was living in a high-rise apartment. And there was a couple of times, I'm living on the 28th floor, that I opened the door, the patio door, in my sleep. I was woken up to me, like, with that open. And remember, I told you that I used to run out of places. Like, I've ran out of my apartments. I've walked out naked, like I said. So in that high-rise apartment is when I started to get fed up with like how I was living my life. That's when I got sober. So I was really going through this huge spiritual warfare that was like crazy, right? So I started to get really fed up with these dreams that I was having. I'm like disturbed in my sleep every night. I'm having horrific night terrors. I'm sleepwalking. I'm scaring myself. I'm thinking like I'm gonna walk off the 28th floor. So I got this little like thingy that you stick in the patio door so that you can't open it. So that was like part of my saving grace while I was living on the 28th floor for a year. So as I'm trying to go through this healing journey, I'm trying to like give my life over to the Lord. I'm isolated. I'm not hanging out with people like I used to. I stopped going out. I stopped partying. I stopped drinking. So I'm just in this very isolated place. And I started to see therapists for the first time using BetterHelp. And I remember talking to this lady, and I was telling her like, yeah, like, I was telling her what I was doing and telling her about this and trying to, and she was a Christian. So I was hoping that she was going to give me like spiritual wisdom, but she was like, you need to see a psychiatrist. And I looked up psychiatrists and they're so expensive. And I was just like, but in my spirit, I knew that it wasn't something wrong with my mind. I knew it was a spiritual issue that I was having. Like I knew it, right? And I remember talking to that lady. She told me to get a psychiatrist. And I remember being on the phone with my mom, and I would like always like every so often I would talk to my mom and I'd be like, Mom, I hate this. Like I don't want to live like this anymore. I have prayer journals like asking God, like, please take this away from me. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, please help me. Like just praying, like crying out, like just going through it. Right. And I remember saying to my mom, I said, this is a curse. I kept calling it a curse. Like I kept saying that I'm cursed. And she was like, who said it was a curse? And I got chills just saying that just now because I felt like the Holy Spirit was speaking through her. Like, who told you that it was a curse? And I sat with that and I was just like, okay, like, I'm cursed. Like, what are you talking about, Mom? Like, you don't understand because this is me living this life. Like, I hate this. Like, it literally is like is it bane or vein? Bane of my existence. Like, I just can't take it anymore. So I ended up, back up a little bit. I got this anklet from my mom for Christmas, right? And it was this beautiful anklet with these crosses on it. And when I go to, every Christmas I drive to Ohio. So I have all this stuff. I take a bunch of stuff with me. I bring a bunch of stuff back. And my mom got me the anklet. So I had all these gift cards. I go through my gift cards. I throw the boxes in the trash and then whatever. So it dawned on me in a few weeks later, like, I'm like, where's that anklet? I haven't seen it. Like I've unpacked all my presents. I've unpacked all my stuff. Where's the anklet? And I was so scared to tell my mom because backstory, as a child, my mom has bought me diamonds, real gold, nice jewelry, and I've lost like almost everything she's ever bought me. First of all, why would you buy me that stuff and I'm irresponsible and I'm young? But anyways, I was losing it. Like, I would lose stuff. So I did not want to tell her that I lost this anklet because I have been doing so well with my jewelry, besides the fact that I've been breaking stuff. Like, I break earrings and stuff like that, unfortunately. But I did not want to tell her, right? Like, I was just so embarrassed about it. And I didn't want her to be disappointed in me. So I just was like, oh my God. So I asked her, I was like, Mom, where's that anklet? Because normally my mom packs all my little Christmas stuff up in like a big bag, and then I'll just take it with me. So I knew that she organized everything. She just is that way, and I'm not. And I was like, Mom, where did you put that? And she said, it's in your gift card boxes. Remember, I said I threw my gift card boxes in the trash. So I was like panicking, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just keep looking for it, knowing dang well I don't know where it is. No clue. Okay. So I literally Googled the bracelet or the anklet. I was going to just buy it. I was just going to rebuy it so she would never know I lost it, because I did not want to tell her I lost it. I ended up watching this sermon, and the sermon was talking about lying, like little lies, like little white lies. And I was basically trying to lie to get myself out of something, right? So I was like, oh, I'm just going to tell her the truth. I'm going to tell her the truth. Okay. So I tell her the truth. I say, Mom, I can't find this anklet. Like, I don't know where it is. I'm going to keep looking, but I really don't know. Like, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like whatever. So I was just very like bothered by that. I'm just like, where is this anklet? So when I surrendered my life over to Jesus, when I quit drinking alcohol, June of 2022, when I would lose something, I started this new game that I would play with God. Not a game, but I'm just like, if I lose something, I'd be like, God, you know where it is, right? So I've lost my AirPods before, and I ended up finding them because I prayed and I said, God, you know where it is. I'm not doing this, right? Like, just you'll reveal it to me. So that's what I did with the anklet. I prayed. I said, God, I don't know where this is, but you know where it is. So please help me find it. If it's gone, it's gone. But if you know where it is, help me find it, right? So I remember the next day I get in the shower and I'm praying to God about something. I don't even remember what. When I'm in the shower, I have this recollection that I was sleepwalking that night, the night before. Like, I was sleepwalking, and I was like, oh. And it kind of came to me like in this flash of what I remembered when I was sleepwalking. And on my dresser, I had this box of like these perfumes, right? And they were inside the box. It was like these little Prada perfumes, and I never opened them. They're like the little ones. And I just put it on my nightstand, on my dresser, because they were pretty. Like, it was a pretty box. So I just put it up there, and I wasn't ready to use them yet. They've been sitting there for months, or maybe a couple months, maybe a month and a half, too. Never opened them, just sat them there, right? So God brought this recollection to me of me sleepwalking and of me messing with this box while I was doing that. Like, I'm asleep. I don't know what I'm doing, but I remember that I picked that up and I put it down. So since God brought that to my memory, I was just like, okay, like, I got out the shower, did what I needed to do. And then I was just like, I'm about to just open this up and take them out, like whatever. When I opened up the box, there was a little jewelry thing in there, like a little jewelry bag. I took the jewelry bag out, I opened the jewelry bag, and my anklet was in there. I was never going to look in there. Plus, I had perfumes backed up. I was just like, I'm not using these for anything. They're cute. I'm going to leave them on my dresser. I was never going to look in that box where the anklets were. Now, stay with me. Just the day or two before that, I told my mom, I said, I am cursed. I've always said, always, and it was true, the devil is tormenting me. The enemy is tormenting me. Why would God send me night terrors? Why would God terrify me in my sleep to make me fall and hurt myself, to make me sleepwalk, why? You know what I'm saying? So I gave it all over to the devil. Not thinking about the fact that I'm seeing visions, not thinking about the fact that God has given me dreams on multiple occasions that has stopped me from doing something I shouldn't do, has saved me from people who meant harm to me. So I called it a curse. I said it was from the enemy. I said that all of this was the devil. I told my mom, this is a curse. When I prayed to the Lord to help me find my anklet, he used the thing that the enemy was using against me to help me find it. Do you get what I'm saying? As soon as I prayed to the Lord to help me find it, he used the thing that I was so embarrassed and shamed about to help me, to show me where it was. So what I learned from that is that sometimes we get these spiritual giftings. And what I've realized now about myself is that I have a gift to see in the spiritual realm. I have the gift of dreams. God gives me dreams and communicates with me. I've known when people have been pregnant, not tons of times, but I've known things. God is, like I said, told me not to go places, told me not to deal with people anymore through dreams. And he's used me in this way. So I know that I have this spiritual gifting, but I gave it over to the enemy. With my mouth, I told everyone that I had a chance to tell, or my mom over and over again, this is a curse. The enemy is using it against me. I never once said, God, why am I doing this? Or if I did, I was just crying and pleading for him to take it away. I never asked him to show me what this was. And I'm telling you, from that moment, I'm not going to tell you I've never sleptwalked again, because sleepwalking can be triggered by being anxious. What I've learned about myself is I am very sensitive in the spiritual realm when I am sleeping. So because of that, sometimes I get up, like it just happens, right? But when I tell you, it went from me being a chronic sleepwalker, hurting myself, falling, walking out of my apartment naked, doing all this crazy stuff. It went from that to God giving me these prophetic dreams, God giving me dreams that literally line up directly with scripture, God showing me visions in my sleep. Remember, I told you that when I sleep, I see these visions. When I wake up, I still see my dreams. I see these visions. I've seen visions of baby carriages. I've seen visions of writing on the wall. I've seen visions of like a bush accelerating I've just seen crazy things that, because I was so yoked up by the torment from the enemy, that I just gave it all over to him. As soon as I gave this thing back over to the Lord, because it was what he gave to me, which is why the enemy used it against me from a young age. I've had this sensitivity in the spirit in my sleep since I was a little girl, but I didn't know why. My mom didn't have context for it. Clearly, it was something that was dealing with her. She was getting dealt with it too. So even if it was the enemy knowing something that we didn't know, because things can be generational, God told me this is a spiritual gift. And if you stop calling it a curse, I will allow you to use it. I will use it through you. God is so good. So I hope that helps somebody. I do want to make a part 2 where I tell you more about my dreams. I tell you more about how God can give you dreams that are scary. But God is not going to torment you. I will talk to you more about God giving you repetitive dreams. Repetitive dreams normally are from the Lord. So I just want to share more about my dreams, because I know that can also help somebody. But I just wanted to break down the sleepwalking thing. If you are someone who is a Christian, you are a Jesus follower, and you have sleptwalked all your life, I haven't really met many people that do this. I know I've seen this lady on TikTok that does it. And then I've met someone one time, and he was a guy and he did it. But I've never actually met someone that I've been close with that does this. And I have not heard anybody talk about the spiritual aspect of it and why you may be doing it. So if you are someone who is sleepwalking, I'm not telling you that if you give it over to the Lord that you're never going to do it again. But I can tell you that you do not have to be tormented. Not having night terrors is not normal. Having night terrors is not cute. No. So give it over to the Lord. Pray for guidance. Pray for wisdom. Pray for clarity. And if you have a spiritual gifting that scares you, that is too big, that is confusing, that no one else has, that no one else talks about, get this guidance from the Lord before you call it a curse, before you speak out loud and you say, this thing is A, B, and C. See what God says about the thing before you give it over to the devil. Because if you give it over to him, he has the right to use it against you. Whew. So that's that. Be looking forward to a part 2 about dreams. And I'll give you examples of like I already said, the different dreams that I've had and stuff like that. But I don't know when I'm going to do it. So respectfully, I'm going to do it though. Okay. But thanks for watching. I hope y'all have a great day, evening, whatever, whenever you're watching this. God bless.